I'd like to open this October 7th meeting of the Mashpee Board of Sewer Commissioners. We're meeting at the Mashpee Town Hall, the Wacoit Meeting Room at 16 Great Neck Road. We have a number of people in the audience, and some folks may wish to talk, may wish to speak. We won't be responding to your commentary, but we'll be taking good notes and looking forward to answering some of your questions. We have some new folks on the board, and I'm going to ask the sewer commissioners to just go around the table and say who they are and what their address is.
Okay, I'm Deb Vaughn, representing Precinct 4.
I'm Alfred Toll, representing Precinct 1.
Ken Dunn, representing at large.
Ann Malone, representing Precinct 2.
And Mike Rapaz, representing Precinct 3. And we also have in the audience, we have our town engineer.
I'm Chris Gallagher. I'm the town engineer. I've been here about 4 months, and I'm going to be apparently responsible for the sewer project. I'm available 8:30 to 4:30. If anyone ever has any questions, feel free to call me.
And also in the audience is our town manager, Rodney Collins, and assistant town manager, Wayne Taylor. I'm going to ask that we first hear from Pat and ask him to talk about where things are at in his consultations with both Summerwood and Sea Oaks. Pat Costello is the town's counsel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Can you hear me all right?
We can.
Yes.
Okay. As you noted, Mr. Chairman, I have had some discussions with representatives of both Sea Oaks and the Summerwood Condominium developments relative to the proposed construction of infrastructure within those particular developments within the private property of the condominiums. As we've discussed in the past, just generally, as a matter of policy, the sewer commissioner of the town is going to construct all sewer-related infrastructure within public and private ways and on public property, as it is permitted to do under General Laws, Chapter 83, Section 1, at town expense. There would be no need to acquire easements per se in town-owned property or public ways. We will be acquiring easements, or are in the process of acquiring easements within private ways in order to give us the requisite title or interest in the real estate to, number one, go in and construct the sewer facilities, and number two, to operate, and maintain, and repair them later on. Properties that abut public and private ways are responsible for constructing their own infrastructure in order to tie their house drains or their laterals into the town's sewer mains. That's standard procedure. That's the way we envision the process working going forward. The town is going to be paying all costs associated with the construction of the sewer infrastructure within public and private ways and on town property, without any betterment assessments being made against the citizens or users of the system within the town. Private property owners, much like the condominiums properties, are responsible for the development or installation of the sewer infrastructure within their private property. We don't have a right to go into privately owned property and install sewer facilities without obtaining necessary legal rights, which are easements for the most part. That's what we've been discussing with the owners of Sea Oaks and Summerwood, the acquisition of easements within their respective condominium developments to facilitate the tie-in of their residential units to the town sewer system. As has been discussed, there are basically two options. for the installation of this sewer equipment or facilities within the condo development properties. We can access the private driveways within the condominium developments pursuant to an easement granted by the condo association or other persons who have title or interest in the driveway properties. And the town will proceed to construct the internal wastewater collection system as a component of the town's project. Now, the outlay of funds for the purpose of designing and constructing such improvements on private property, which provide a particularized or special benefit to the unit owners of the condominium developments, will be recovered through the assessment of a betterment in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 80. That betterment assessment will be paid over a period of time, either 20 years or whatever the length of the borrowing that the town undertakes to fund the construction services. The simple reason that a betterment is being assessed is because a municipality is not allowed to expend public funds for the benefit or improvement of privately owned properties. We can do so in a generalized sense, but when there is a special or particular benefit realized by a particular property, the town is entitled, and municipalities routinely do, assess betterments in order to recoup the costs that have been incurred or the advantage or increase or benefit to those particular condominium units. So this option is nothing unusual. It is very standard. It is utilized very frequently by water and sewer commissions when they do improvement work within private properties. Now, one of the benefits to the individual property owners for this approach would be, number one, the town will take care of all the design and construction of the sewer lines within their property, within the driveways, up to the boundaries, I guess, from the edge of road or the edge of the driveway, and the unit owners will then be responsible for installing the laterals. Number two, we believe that the cost or expense for such design and construction work would be favorable to the individual property owners under this approach, because the town has an advantage of financing in part the subject project through SRF loans with a 0% interest rate and a 25% subsidy provided by the Cape and Islands Water Protection Trust, both of which will lower the costs that would be necessarily recovered by the betterment assessments. Option two would be the town would design, construct, and install the sewer lines within a public or private road adjacent to the subject condominium units up to the condominium entrance and stop our construction there. We'll put a stub or another connection point in the main at that point, and it will then be the responsibility of the respective condominium owners or associations to design and construct the sewer lines internal to the condominium property at their own expense. That's an option we can pursue if the condominiums would prefer to go that route. Connection and hookups to all of the units within the condo developments will always remain a private cost, as is the case with option one that I just alluded to. Under this option, the condo associations and unit owners would have to privately finance, design, and construct internal sewer collection improvements in order to tie into the town system, and they would not likely gain the benefit or advantage of the town's favorable financing to fund that particular work. So at this juncture, as I noted, I've had discussions with representatives of the condominium associations. I know that Town Engineer Gallagher has also engaged in discussions with them in this point, and I'm not 100% sure of what the final design status of the proposed improvements with regard to Sea Oaks and Summerwood are at this juncture, but I do believe that there has been substantial progress made in determining what the design and build-outs of the sewer improvements would be based upon preliminary testing that has occurred with regard to those properties. Happy to answer any further questions.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Pat?
No.
Are there questions from the audience? Yes, could you come up and speak into the microphone? Yes, and if you could give your name and address, that'd be helpful.
I'm Catherine Jacobson. I live in Sea Oaks, Unit 14D. I just want to make sure I understand what Pat said, because I don't really know a lot about this stuff. So in option one, when you talked about the betterment assessment that would be paid over 20 years, who is that paid by? The condo association? Or who?
Do you want me to answer that?
And I'll just preface that when Andrew Gottlieb, sold the idea of the wastewater treatment plant, and believe me, I'm all for it. I remember him saying that it wouldn't be, the cost would be spread out over all the taxpayers in Mashpee, not just the ones who were initially being required to hook up. So I'm just concerned, obviously, we have to pay for the connection from our unit to the main line, but would unit owners be responsible for that line from 28 into the complex?
Chris Gallagher,
me to
could you answer that, please?
Yeah, basically, Pat described scenario number one.
Right.
In which we sewer your development and there'd be betterments. Scenario number two just means we leave a stub and you sewer it yourself. In scenario number one, all the design work is included, not included in your cost of your betterment, only the construction. So you're getting a lot of stuff for free. And then 1/4 of the cost is paid back through the Cape Wastewater Fund or whatever it is there. So you're actually getting it at 75% of what it would normally cost the town, and at 0% interest. And what it is we're taking a 30-year loan, is the SRF loan at 0%. So you pay it over 30 years instead of 20.
Who pays it, the town?
It pays on your tax bill. It comes as a betterment on your tax
I
bill,
see.
not as a condo fee.
I see.
So your individual tax bill would have the betterment. And you pay it over 30 years. The town by law can charge up to 2% more than they're paying on interest. So we could charge 2%, but the decision was not to charge any more and just charge what we're getting, 0%. So over the course of the 30 years, I mean, I calculated some rough numbers, and it's probably gonna be, if we took both condos together and combined them and divided by the 228, which is 117 in one of them and 111 in the
111
other,
in Sea Oaks.
it'd come out to probably around $50 a month. So it's not,
On your tax bill.
yeah, so it's not a huge hit for what you're gaining. And you'd never have to go through all the expense of repairing septic systems again.
Right.
So, I mean, you're gonna pay one way or another. This is a final solution to what could be a problem. But that's about what I've calculated, my rough numbers, order of magnitude. It could go, $20, $30 either way. But again, the sewer commission at some point will set betterments. Once the cost is there, they'll make the final determination. But that's how a betterment gets assessed. It's a tax assessment.
Yeah, I didn't understand what a betterment
So it's
was
gonna-
exactly.
It would be on everyone's individual
Mr. Chairman, if I
tax
may
bill.
add something when Chris finishes, that might be helpful.
Yes, please do.
Thank you. I think that a critical distinction, as I noted earlier and as Chris alluded to, is we have two types, if you will, of work going on here. Number one is the work within the public domain, which is what I believe the speaker was referring to, Selectman Gottlieb's comments about the work within the public domain, within the public ways, private ways, and on public property, i.e. the wastewater treatment plant, which is a major expense, will be shared equally amongst the taxpayers of the town and funded through other sources. The only costs and expenses that the betterments will involve are those particular costs that relate to the improvements constructed by the town on private property. As I say, in a typical single-family homeowner situation, we do not construct any improvements on private property. We build out to the property line, and it's the homeowner's responsibility to tie into the sewer system. That exact same situation will apply with regard to the condominium property. Since the condominiums are accessed by private driveways, not private roads, not public roads, any work that is done within those private driveways is akin to work done on private residential property. It's not our property. We don't have a right to go in there unless we have permission to do so or we acquire easements to do so. So the costs associated with the work on those private properties will be segregated, will be tallied up at the end of the construction project, and since those specific costs will provide a particularized or special benefit only to the unit owners and the condominium associations or whomever has control over the common property within those developments, each of those particular owners will be assessed the betterment, and it will be broken down and apportioned based upon the shared interest therein, probably on a unit-by-unit basis, I would suggest. But only the costs that the town incurs with regard to the design and construction of the improvements on the privately owned condominium property will be the subject of betterments. All of the other, far more substantial costs relating to this sewer construction and wastewater treatment plant project will be, again, part of the general obligation of the community and will be funded through the various town sources.
Thank you, Pat.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
Hi, I'm Jim Gray. I'm with the Summerwood Condominiums. I have a few questions, if you don't mind. Chris, you and I spoke a couple weeks ago. Hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry I missed the meeting, but I had issues.
Yeah, you had a good excuse. I like that one. Question I had, when we spoke to Chris, this betterment loan would be 20 years. Now it's 30.
Yeah,
correct?
I was wrong on that because it's basically the SRF alone is over the course of 30 years.
Yeah. You can understand from Summerwood's point of view, this has snuck up on us. Now it's biting us. We had no idea this was coming. And I could still echo through my ear, clean water, no cost to the taxpayers. And obviously that's not going to happen with our association. Billing is direct. I just want to make sure the billing is directly to each individual as a tax bill?
It'll come on their tax bill.
Okay. I think that's about it. And time frame. Any expectations on time frame, when this is going to happen?
What we're hoping, it's going to be subject to when the treatment plant comes online. So the treatment plant, which is more than half of the expense of this project, and that's getting done, funded by the town. But the plant, we're figuring it's probably going to be at least 2 years for that to get online. So even if all your collection system is in, your pumps and your pipes, they can't connect until the plant's online. So realistically, I'd say about 3 years from now is when you're looking at being able to actually be online and tie in.
Okay, good. Next question is, we represent the association, which is 117 units. Do you, being the commission or the town or whoever, communicate with each individual owner about this project? That's the question I had.
So far, we've spoke through our counsel, Pat, and your counsel, Diane Mulligan, and we had a meeting with the three of us. Typically, I look back at when the water ended up going into your community, and they took an easement, and it was through the trustees of the condo association is who they dealt with. I don't know how it works now, but then the trustees spoke for the association. I don't know what mechanism, if you still have that set up that way or not.
We'll have to look into that.
But I mean, like I said before, I'm available 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. If you want to meet, call and we'll schedule a time, or you can call on the phone. I'm here to answer any questions anyone in the public has and to help everybody through this process. And,
I appreciate that.
I'm as anxious to get through this as hopefully you are.
The other question I had, and obviously from our initial meeting back in March, we had a little discrepancy about who was paying for this piping. That's changed, obviously, and we've had an update, I think, from Mr. Costello and our attorney about a price of what it would estimated cost. That came up, I'm going to say $1.5 million. That's changed. Well, you can see we're at the predicament I'm in. I don't know what number to throw out there. So that's why we need something in formidable writing that we can promote this to our association.
Right now, I can give you cost estimates based on what the consultants put for fees for installation.
Mr. Chairman, I can address that too in a minute.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
Okay, with regard to process, as the town engineer has noted, it's not likely that these improvements, should they go forward, on the Summerwood property, are going to be completed for another couple of 3 years or so. The way the process works is the first step is for the town to acquire the easements within the property in order to give it the legal interest within the property to install and construct sewer facilities. When the taking of the easements occurs, it will either be by what we prefer as a friendly or stipulated taking, which is what we've engaged in discussions for to date, or if that isn't possible, the town legally has the right to go forward and take the property merely upon vote of the commission. We don't want to do that. I mean, if Summerwood doesn't want these facilities built by the town within its property, the commission will ultimately have to make a decision whether to opt into option 2, whereby we build merely the facilities out to the property line and then they take it from there. In the event that option 1 is going to be pursued, we have prepared preliminary designs for the installation of sewer lines within the Summerwood driveways. The next step would be to acquire the easements by adopting an order of taking. All parties, i.e. the unit owners and the condominium association, will have full notice of the taking. There will have to be an appraisal done to determine if there is any damage incurred by the property owners as a result of the taking. I would suggest that there likely would not be, because the taking will be conferring a benefit on the property by improving its wastewater treatment situation substantially. But the betterment assessment, which is really the crux of the discussion here today, won't even be an issue, won't even be determinable until 3 years down the road. We have to wait until all the work is completed and all the costs relating to these improvements have been tallied up. Then those costs are apportioned among the real property owners who are benefited by that particular improvement. A second order will have to be adopted by the sewer commissioners. It will be a betterment order, and that will be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. It will be recorded with a complete listing of all of the condominium unit owners and any other property owners who have benefited by the easement. It will have the estimated allocation of the total betterments, and it will be recorded with a plan that will show specifically the nature and extent of the improvements and that the improvements relationship to the subject property owners. So there will be absolutely complete notice of a formal basis in accordance with the Betterment Statute, General Laws, Chapter 80. But I fully anticipate, in fact, I can tell you quite assuredly, I know that the town will be reaching out to all of the affected property owners up front as soon as we have a better handle on what the ultimate costs are going to be, and accordingly what the respective betterments will be for each prospective unit owner.
We look forward to that.
I mean, just to quickly expand on that, when this, I'm giving estimates now based on what the consultants are giving me for numbers for pipe and manholes and whatnot. When the project goes out to bid, in today's market, it's kind of unpredictable what's going to happen. But once it goes out to bid, we'll probably have a real good handle on exactly what the betterment will be. It won't be done until the final, as Pat said, construction is completed and the numbers are tallied up, because there are other things like you're going to have an inspector out there and a few other peripheral things. You're probably not going to have police details inside the condo units. But once it goes out to bid, we'll have a very good handle what the cost will be before a shovel goes in the ground.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Jim Brooks, and I live at Sea Oaks. As far as the tying in goes, we have septic tanks there now, and the pipes go to the house to go into the septic tank. So would that tie into the tank that's there, the piping that's already there, or would that have to be all redone once the main line is run there? How would that work?
What's typically done is the pipe comes out of the building the first 10 feet, and it goes into the tank. So what you typically do, and this goes to any single-family home as well, you leave the leaching field in place. That doesn't get touched. You take the tank, you pump it out, you crush it right in place and backfill it, and you connect your pipe to the pipe that goes into the tank. So we'd come up to your property, and as we're going, we'll figure out the best place to put the stub based on where your current septic system is. We'll put a service there, which will probably be 30, 40 feet from the building. You connect it from that stub to the pipe that goes into the tank, and that's it. And then if there's a pump involved, which I think at Sea Oaks, I think 6 buildings may be on pumps, you'd hire someone to do that connection. But the connection would start 10 feet out of your building before your tank.
With the pipe that's already there?
The pipe that's already there, 10 feet out, well, right where it meets your tank, you'd cut it there, pump your tank out, crush it in place, backfill it, and run your pipe from there.
So it's not a complete repiping from, let's say it runs along the street all the way out there, because I've got about 40 feet, let's say, to the...
No, it's not, and, if you want to actually come in and look at the plans with me, I could show you, so you'd get a better handle on seeing exactly what happens.
Okay, great.
So,
Thank you.
You're welcome to come in.
Thank you. Chris, could you expand on, you mentioned pumps and the fact that we may need some at Sea Oaks. And can you explain how this is just another benefit the town is providing people?
Yeah, there's 6 buildings that will most likely need pumps at Sea Oaks that we couldn't get to by gravity. And what the policy the commission had discussed and I believe adopted was very similar to Falmouth's policy. And what Falmouth does is they buy all the pumps off F.R. Mahoney up in Rockland, the Environmental One pumps, but They buy all the pumps in bulk rate, so they're getting them, $1,000, $1,500 cheaper than what you could get them for. So they're getting them, I think it was $3,500. They give the pumps to the people that have pump systems, so they get the pump for free. If you had to buy the pump, you'd pay a few grand more, plus you'd pay 25, you're getting 25% from the Cape Cod wastewater off. So we're actually getting them for 0% interest, a lower rate, and 25% less on that lower rate. So it's a deal. And so that you'd get furnished the pumps for the buildings that need them, and you'd be required to pipe from the building through the pump to the service that's left. The pipe that ties into the system.
Hey, Mike, the gentleman in the back had his hand up.
Mr. Town Manager.
They're actually going to teach the installers how to design these, so they'll be all certified. Whoever does any of the connections on the private property has to be a licensed installer in the town.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. I would just like to clarify a couple things. The town never suggested that it would not cost the taxpayers any money. In fact, we said it was going to cost $54 million. What was also said is that when you calculate the additional revenues after the WIF, that no further taxation would be required in order to pay off the $54 million. In addition, we have consistently said that there would be hookup fees and that those hookup fees would vary. In terms of the element of surprise, the septic failures at Summerwood were identified in 2006 and 2007. In fact, the Board of Health attended a Summerwood Condominium Association meeting in 2006 with approximately 40 people present. So, again, there are some facts here that are relevant. I'm not here to be argumentative. I am here to be civil, respectful, and understand that Summerwood is attempting to collect information. I value that. Anybody can reach out to my office in addition to the engineers. We'll try to explain it. We'll provide any information that they want, any documents that they want that we possess. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I think that wraps it up. I don't see any more requests for questions, so I think we're going to move on to our next issue. Thank you for coming, by the way, and expressing interest. I'd like to introduce Mark. Pat, I think we're all set. Thank you very much.
All right. My pleasure. Have a good meeting. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
I'd like to bring up Mark Drainville, who is representing GHD, who is the consultant who is working with us on the plant and the sewer lines. And he's going to talk about where we're at on the groundwater discharge permit, which is a very important part of our SRF submittal.
Thank you. So I am Mark Drainville from GHD. I'm here filling in for Anastasia Rudenko. She's on vacation this week. I'm a wastewater process engineer with a lot of experience with groundwater discharge permits. So that's primarily why I'm here today. So you're all probably generally familiar with the groundwater discharge permit itself. Its intention is to regulate quantity and quality of the water that goes into the ground and eventually into the groundwater. The permit itself is a two-step process two-step application process. The first part is a hydrogeological application, and that looks at the impact that the water that you're adding into the ground has on the groundwater table. And then the second portion is a wastewater treatment component. So it's a two-step application process. So the first of the two permit applications was submitted back in April. And prior to submitting that, the state requires what's called a pre-scoping meeting, so they can review the application before you send it in. And they can review the different parts of it. We then submitted the second part of the application, I believe sometime over the summer, which is the wastewater treatment portion, and have been in conversation with the state for the past few months. They've sent us written comments, which we've responded to, had some meetings with them, and have satisfied all the comments that they had sent to us. Then last month, they, and as we were asking for, when are we going to get the permit, they started to provide some vague comments about the hydrogeological portion of the application. So we couldn't get any comments in writing from them, so we scheduled a meeting. We had that meeting this past Monday. Mike attended it with me. In attendance at that meeting was the hydrogeological department and two representatives from the southeast region of DEP, our hydrogeological modeler, myself, and Mike. So what came up in the meeting is a couple of things, and I'm going to describe these in detail, but just bear with me for a minute. The state informed us that something called the Maui decision is impacting the application at this point, and I will describe that. They have requested some additional information. This information is not available in writing. They provided it to us verbally in the meeting. And the primary issue has to do with the what's called the mound of that you get when you have a source of water added to the ground into the groundwater. The groundwater table locally increases, and it's called a mound. Okay. So the Maui decision is a Supreme Court decision back in the Obama administration, or in that, and I'm just saying that for a time frame. Okay. It had nothing to do with that administration. So it is a Supreme Court decision, and what it had to do with is an instance in Maui where a wastewater treatment facility was discharging to the ground through like a sand bed of sorts, and that discharge went into the groundwater, and the groundwater went into, I believe, the ocean and had an impact on the ocean environment. And usually it's the state that has control over the groundwater discharges, and it's the federal government that typically has control over discharges to what they call navigable waters. Okay, so the ocean is that. So what happened in that decision is the two ended up being linked together. You can't ignore the fact that you're discharging to a groundwater that may have an impact on a navigable body water. The two are linked together. I can't describe all the implications of that, but there was, at the time that it came out, there wasn't really a good feeling as to what kind of impacts it might have on different kinds of discharges. So what happened is, it came out towards the end of the Obama administration. During the Trump administration, the DEP on Monday told us it was swept under the rug. It was not implemented. It was there were guidance documents provided that were eventually determined to be contrary to the intent of the decision, but it wasn't implemented. And in fact, up until the end of the Trump administration, they issued guidance documents as the administration was leaving that, again, was contrary to that decision. What's happening now is the Biden administration is bringing it back, or implementing it. As recently as last month, there was an article that came out that had indicated that some of those guidance documents that were issued to EPA have been, I'm not sure what the term is, reversed or removed. Let's see. So how does it impact us? So the impact is basically it's Quaker Run, which is a small wetland and brook system near the discharge site. And so the groundwater mound extends out a distance, okay? And there's a guidance that the state gave us verbally that said, as long as that mound is 0.1 feet above where it normally is, then they consider it to be no impact. As it increases above that, they start to get concerned where now your groundwater is impacting a surface water body. Okay. So DEP gave us two pieces of guidance. Number one, they asked us if we could verify if the wetland system that is at the head of Quaker Run is perched. If we could determine whether or not it's perched, then the issue goes away, because it's not then connected to the groundwater system. The second item they asked is to rerun the model, the hydrogeological model, which initially focused on the Mashpee River, which is what DEP guidance asked for at the time. And they asked us now to run the model to be inclusive of the Quaker Run hydrogeological system. So what we're doing right now is we're pursuing both of those items concurrently. We are looking at database information to see if we can make a determination on whether or not the wetland, which is at the head end, may be perched. Current indications are it's not, but we're still pursuing that. We also engaged our hydrogeological modeler, and he is under contract now to basically redo the model. So he's going to be redoing the hydrogeological model this month. It's not a small effort. It's going to take him, weeks to do this. So I'm hopeful that by about 4 weeks or so, we're going to start to have an indication on that from him. We're also, since the meeting on Monday, I've been having other internal thoughts about other things to do. We're going to be, thinking kind of internally about having some additional discussions with the state about this too. So, there's multiple steps that we're pursuing at this point. It's a, totally unexpected curveball that they kind of threw us on Monday. So, so we're going to pursue these steps, and we can, provide updates as we progress along. But we're pursuing, each avenue that's been presented at this point.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
So you say 4 weeks? Oh, sorry, Ann. Al?
Mark, in all my years, I've never seen a person clear a room as quickly as you did.
That was it? That was not anything better than that.
My reputation precedes me, I guess.
So 4 weeks from now, we should be hearing from Steve Smith about...
Yeah, and Mike, I'm hopeful that as we go along, we'll get some kind of indications from him, but Steve was saying it's going to take him a good month to do this work. He's, another issue that he's also exploring is if this is not an issue, then how much can we push the system? And this came up in our call on Monday. How much can we push the system to take more water? So in some way, the request for that site to take more water has gotten the state to look more closely at at the site itself and the impact on Quaker Run. So they've asked us to do two pieces. What's the impact now? And then how much can you push it before it starts to, rise to a level that it does become an impact?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, this meeting was just this past week.
Monday.
What precipitated it?
I guess,
We asked for the meeting because the state was giving us indirect, they all of a sudden started giving us very indirect or vague responses about when the permit was going to be coming out in a draft form.
So this meeting was at your request with DEP,
Yes.
So,
based on some law that passed years ago that nobody's sticking to, and it's not really firm yet, that they're gonna even follow it? In other words, it's just,
It's not written, Chris. It's not, the guidance isn't written. The guidance is coming to us. They have an unwritten standard that they're saying. So, you're thinking about something that I am too. We need to.
it sounds like a bunch of bull to me then. Sounds like it could be chasing your tail for the 4 weeks, and without an answer from them.
I inquired, because I was very frustrated with the very late response from DEP. And I've contacted the head of that division, a guy named Weldon Langley, to ask him, is this really becoming a common practice? Because as Mark said, there's no policy, there's no SOP, there's nothing written. And it kind of rubs me the wrong way that one particular regional office out of the 4 regions for DEP is saying this kind of thing, making people jump through this hoop. But having worked for DEP for many years, I think we're better off not pushing this much further and just having Steve Smith do his work and getting back to us as quickly as he can.
Well, I felt that we needed to jump on the technical pieces of this and get that going while we strategize about, see if there's something else that can be done. So we can't afford to waste time in case we are stuck heading down that path, so.
So is this like a rogue person that decided to find some remote law that's applying it where no one else does?
The Maui decision is complicated, and it actually made it to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court laid out 7 criteria that needed to be met when you did this kind of evaluation. And DEP, I think, has latched onto it, and this is how they are presenting it.
But only the DEP in Lakeville?
So far, only the DEP in Lakeville.
There's a rogue.
Ken?
You have questions? I have questions.
Go ahead, no, Ken. Go
No,
ahead.
you go first.
No, you.
Ladies first. Mark, as you well know, on Monday, you sent me your milestone document electronically so that I could then manipulate it into something I could look at. And I did create a spreadsheet. I'll send it out to everybody after, but my only concern on all is this, you had the meeting just in November, right? I mean, when I look at this chart, and the point I'm gonna make to you is that a lot of the original dates that were set in March have been changed by 3, 4, 5 months on the next document. The finished target date were just changed. I mean, was this just festering within the DEP, or have we been active on this?
So we've been active from our end by maintaining contact with the Southeast region, which is, that's our, that's where we are. They, like I said earlier, they provided us written comments. We have had several meetings with them, Zoom meetings with them to review their comments. I don't have a good answer as to why they didn't bring it up before, and I guess I'd like to go back to something I raised before. The hydrogeological aspect of this permitting process requires what's called a pre-scoping meeting. where you engage the hydrogeological department with what you're going to send. You talk about the data that you have. They require that before you go through the process. So they had that prior to the process too, and didn't provide this advice or
Yeah, you
whatever.
did that in January.
It was
January
April,
29th.
I thought, so the scoping meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah, the application was submitted in April.
All right. No, that's good. My only comment for you guys is, if you start changing dates on a milestone, you affect everything down the road.
Mhm.
And this is the first time I've heard of dates being changed without notifying everybody. So maybe in the future, if you change dates because of a reason, we'd like to know. And if this was dragging on, maybe we could have known ahead of time so that the powers to be, like, Chris wasn't here, he's lately been
No, I mean, I'm
preoccupied.
looking at the.
But we could help it along and at least inform everybody on the commission that this is dragging. So all of a sudden, because Al and I looked at each other and said, what the hell's going on? So I appreciate that.
I'll tell you, on Monday, this was the first time that we realized, I actually didn't go into the meeting on Monday expecting a problem.
Did you?
So this is fresh off the presses, to be honest. I'd like to just add one other comment. A lot of the discharges that occur from wastewater treatment facilities, not only Massachusetts, but everywhere, are normally to rivers. So this southeast region is unique in that there are a lot of discharges to groundwater. So I don't know if that might play into it. So I don't know if it's just one rogue, branch. It's just that there's a lot of discharges to ground here. So they deal with it a lot more.
So Mark, can I ask from a practical standpoint, the issuance of the groundwater permit is contingent upon successfully completing this exploration and having the right answers, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And we really can't go anywhere with this project until we have the groundwater discharge permit.
Correct.
Okay. So obviously we have a lot of work to do to make sure the answers come out the way we need them, but what are we looking at in terms of potential changes to our immediate next steps?
Well, I am hopeful that we're gonna have so I am hopeful that either within this month or at the end of this month that we're gonna have a much clearer direction on that. I'm not convinced.
You think they're gonna give us more direction, or we're gonna understand better where we are?
So I think we'll understand better where we are. Another thing that I've been thinking about is, this has come as a surprise, and feels unfair. And so I'd like to, I don't have a real put together sentence to describe this, but I'd like to pursue that part of this, also to have some additional discussions with the state. Can I tell you right now it's going to have an impact? There was some, and Mike, I don't know if you picked up on this, but there was some information provided from the Southeast region that said that DEP is looking at this issue, and he said there's no promises, but they're higher ups are kind of looking at this issue too, in more of a hopeful way. I don't know if you remember that discussion. I can't quote it, but it was came from Brian. So,
Chris, if I might. So they haven't told you exactly what to do. In other words, they haven't told you that you have to do all this extra work. They're telling you may or may not, we haven't given you an answer yet.
What they've told us is that they have a concern right now that the groundwater is going to impact that surface water, which means that now we've opened up the Maui decision issue. What they've said to us is this issue can go away if it's either a perched wetland or the groundwater impact can be determined to be negligible. So they've asked us to try to make the issue go away, if that makes sense.
Who were you talking to at DEP? Who came up with this?
Gentleman named Brian Dudley, and another gentleman, new fellow, named Andrew Osei.
Andrew Osei?
Yes, last name is O-S-E-I.
But Mike, that specific guidance
I think I've
came
dealt with
from
him.
Joe Cerruti, is that his
Joe
name?
Cerruti.
So that's the guy at DEP?
Yeah, so Joe is the hydrogeological,
How do you
Reviewer?
spell his last name?
I might have to get it to you, Chris. Cerruti is all I
Is it-
remember. I'm gonna have to get it to you.
C? S?
C-E-R-R-U-T-I.
Okay.
Okay, and just, Ken, the milestones, this doesn't, as Mark had said, have any effect on the changing of them, because they just found out about it this week. So I don't know what pushed everything up 4 or 5 months, but it looks like we may miss the spring with this new milestone, which isn't good. The one thing, this doesn't affect your design, so I mean, you still should be completing your design, correct?
It doesn't impact, yeah, this does
So,
not impact the
I mean,
design.
my concern, immediate concern, prior to moving forward on anything, is you can't build a car unless you have the plans for the car and complete, so we don't have that. And I guess, are we meeting tomorrow?
Yes.
Yep.
Because I just got in today.
I know,
Been out for a
yeah.
week or two, and I did see an email from Jeff. I didn't read it, haven't responded, but it wasn't about a meeting, and some of his dates tomorrow was one of the ones he had available.
Mhm.
Because what I proposed to do, I talked to Anastasia, and she said, well, you know, the changes and revisions gonna go through this guy, that guy, and 10 different people. I said, why? Can't I sit down with someone for an hour to go over it, make sure there's no issues? If they are, let me know, and get this moving, because it's a drafting exercise. It
Yeah,
shouldn't
Jeff-
take too long.
And Jeff can do that.
And that's what I was hoping, to sit down with Jeff and just go through it. So,
Yep.
that's happening tomorrow. I don't know if you set up a time yet, Mike?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, okay.
And also on the agenda is to talk about the bidding process and ways we can
Yeah, I mean,
shorten it up, make it less expensive possibly.
your
And-
numbers are
and I-
outrageous.
and I can
you know.
come and talk to you
Just
about
To
it.
be frank with you, your numbers are absolutely outrageous for what the bid costs. I've talked to other firms, I've done a lot of bids myself.
Mhm.
So I think the numbers were just filling to get to that whole number. But we can discuss that, but they're very, very high, and we don't have anything to bid yet unless we have a complete set of drawings. And that's
Mhm.
why I want to push the completeness to the drawings. And I'm not holding it hostage, but I'm not going to sign anything till I see complete drawings. So we're not going to me, we need plan completion before we go towards the bid.
And we wanted to have this meeting with you just so we are sure that we don't have any more comments coming. And I think that we could
No.
resolve the final issues
I mean, I went
tomorrow.
over the stuff with Anastasia, but I don't think she's as versed on a technical level. I think she's more of a manager and not an engineer, as you and Jeff are. And the only other major change I did, and I had sent it to her, was Sea Oaks.
Mhm.
If you notice, Sea Oaks, immediately behind Sea Oaks is Carlton Street. And between Sea Oaks and Carlton Street is Town of Mashpee-owned land. So I could run a pipe 10 feet to get to Sea Oaks, actually 200 to get into the system, instead of running all the way down the highway, and I save a half a mile of pipe.
Mhm.
And I can just run it direct, and even after raising Carlton, it works fine.
Was that in your comments from before, or?
Not the initial ones. I took
Okay.
20 minutes after lunch and did a quick redesign, and
Okay.
bang, there was, several, substantial 7-figure savings from going to Sea Oaks that way.
So
Okay.
But it cost a couple pumps, but nothing major.
So we'll be talking about that tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hey,
That's fine.
Chris, just for clarification, that wasn't the only one I was referring to. There were numerous other ones in the document that I thought the dates were changed. That's what just
Oh, yeah.
caught my attention. The groundwater discharge is only one part of many of them that
Yeah, no,
I saw that I was concerned with. That's the only reason I brought it up.
no, I was too.
Yeah, okay. All right, so it's just not the one, it's others. And like I say, I'll put it in a spreadsheet. And would you like copy mark too as well?
Is that something you made up?
That's my spreadsheet, yeah.
Sure.
It's gonna cost you. I get $500 a day, no.
You could
By the way,
email,
it's
you could email it to me
I'll
if you want.
just
Yeah, yeah, that's
email
fine.
it to everybody,
Yeah.
just so you could see what I was looking.
I did not, so I did not do the schedule myself, so I can't respond to anything with
That's
regard to
fine. I
that,
didn't
but.
have to. I just wanted to bring it to your
And I
attention,
hear your
that's all.
comments, so understood.
Thank you.
So Mark, we can hope for, within 4 weeks, an answer about whether we're going to be okay with the .12 MGD discharge under the current plan.
What I would say to that, Mike, is that it's going to be more of an internal thing and maybe not a DEP decision, but at least I think we're going to have a feel on our side, on the town side, where things stand.
So if,
And then we have to pursue this with DEP.
okay, and I'm sure we can assist you in putting a little pressure on DEP.
That's the third part of what my thought, so yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mark, for coming.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The next thing down is contractor pre-qualification, and I'm looking at some dates that are coming up. Are we on track with that?
That's something we're going to talk to Chris about tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions from any of the commissioners? Or Chris? No?
No.
You're all set with me?
Yes, we are. Thank you for
All right.
coming.
Thanks.
Mark.
Nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow, Chris.
Okay, take care, Mark.
Okay, the next agenda item, results of 10-6 meeting on final plans and bidding. That didn't happen. It's happening tomorrow. And meeting with Sandwich.
Do you want to go back to your minutes?
Yeah, we haven't
Oh,
approved
I'm
the
sorry.
minutes.
Yes,
Okay.
I would make a motion that,
You had all that pressure from the audience.
He handled it well.
Yeah.
I would make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 21st and October 1st.
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Al seconds. Vote? Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Okay. And Chris, we've got town engineer report up near the top here, but I know you just got back.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
and
I just
he
went
did
to the
that.
doctor. He was mad that they never gave me any nitroglycerin pills.
Uh-oh.
And so he put in a prescription form for me to pick up on my way home. And I got a phone call that I got sick of waiting for a human. But they said, the prescription can't be refilled. This is how inept people are. I'm lucky I'm alive. But it can't be refilled until December 13th.
Oh, God.
How you feeling though?
I feel great. I mean, I feel better than I have all summer.
There you
Good.
go.
I mean, I'm having trouble like talking and
Yeah.
breathing belated a little.
But that's nothing new.
I walked 6 miles yesterday like nothing.
Good for you.
And I've been walking 3 to 5 miles a day. It's just, I feel, I was having trouble. I walk a lot. I was having trouble all summer.
Wow.
I don't know, that J&J shot, I swear, I took that and my feet blew up purple, swollen. I don't know if you remember when I was limping, my toe, almost lost a toe. I ended up having to get blood thinners from my mother and brother because they didn't click my insurance as active here till August. So I couldn't see anyone in July, couldn't see anyone. So I actually finally got an appointment with a primary, and that's what sent me to the hospital. I met her, she did an EKG because I told them I was having pains. I went to this guy right next to the hospital. He said, "You've had several cardiac events." I said, "Really?" Next thing you know, I'm in the ambulance in the hospital. I'm like, what am I doing here? I feel okay. And 3 stents later and 2 operations. It was just, it wasn't bad though. A bunch of young nurses treating me right. No, the people were awesome, the cardiac unit, this Dr. Lehman and Dr. Zillman,
Were you in Boston?
Cape Cod Hospital, they're excellent. And they didn't let you sleep. Every 2 hours, they were sticking a needle in you or waking you up and taking blood pressure, but they were just, I was really impressed with that hospital.
Good.
And I was lucky that I got who I got.
Yeah, wow,
I guess he used to run Beth Israel Deaconess, now he's down here,
yeah,
so.
wow.
Okay.
We're glad to have you back.
Yeah, no, I'm glad.
On the break.
I didn't realize what happened,
Yeah,
and I didn't realize how lucky I was, when I was in there, because, I mean, I had a major heart attack the week before,
and you didn't.
in the middle of the night. I didn't realize it. I thought my gas doctor told me I was having acid reflux, so I
Yeah.
thought that's what it had been. I
Did
woke
all
up in
this
the
start
morning.
happening after your J&J shot, do you think?
I think that may have had an effect on,
Started
because I'm
accelerating.
diabetic, and that was not the shot diabetics should take, but it did have an effect on my circulation, and it clotted up my leg, and,
Wow.
whether that was sending things through my system, but I don't know. I'm going Moderna for the backup.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, next agenda item, meeting with Sandwich on October 14th. I put that as a placeholder for you, Chris. Apparently, we're going to be joined by Rodney, Wayne, and Gottlieb. So this is going to be a chance to really talk to the town of Sandwich about what we can do to help one another.
And the Sandwich, I imagine Dave Mason's gonna be there.
Dave and the town manager and vice town manager of Sandwich. Bud
Where is the meeting?
at Sandwich, at their town hall.
At Sandwich Town Hall.
Who from the commission's gonna be there?
I don't know if we decided that yet. Did we decide that?
I don't know if it's decided, we talked about it, but I think anybody else who wanted to go could do that.
As long as if somebody else would like to attend, I think now that we have 7 people on the commission, we can bring 3 people with us.
What day of the week is that?
Look at that now.
7th, it
It's
would
a
be a week from today.
It's a Thursday, yeah.
And that's 1 PM, did you say?
Noon to 1:30.
No. I wonder if Dave Mason will remember me. 30 years ago, I did a handful of plot plans and septic designs, and he was the health agent. He just started,
I bet he'll remember you.
so it's been a long time.
George, you would go?
Yeah. If you need somebody, I'll go. We should have representation, so who else is going?
Mike is going.
I'm going to go.
Unless, do you wanna go?
Let's go.
Thursday's one of my better days.
Now,
Okay.
Mike, you said there's 7 members now?
Yes, Chris doesn't even know. We have, Deb is a new member,
Yeah, I've spoken with Chris before.
and a lady named Meredith Harris has also been named a new
Because
member.
I want to get them nameplates,
Yeah, yep, that'd be great.
so maybe if,
Okay, moratorium discussion. This is a complicated one. What are people thinking about the idea of a moratorium these days? It was Joe who raised it, but I thought he made some really good points. But Gottlieb also I think he kind of cooled us off a bit when he described what it would entail.
To me, it's using a shotgun instead of a rifle. You're shutting everything down rather than looking at things that wouldn't affect the water situation. I mean, if I understand it correctly, what Joe was suggesting was no more building until we get some resolution. Correct?
I got the impression he suggested no more Title V systems in the phases we were in the phases that we were working on.
Oh,
That's right.
okay.
That was the impression I got from what he said.
Oh,
Me too.
okay, that's different.
Yeah.
But that leaves you with a failed system. Say you have a failed system now, it's gonna be failed for the next 3 or 4 years. You know? I mean, typically, if it's a phase, like if you're talking phase 1, that's a lot different than saying phases we'll be working on that could open up the whole town. And we don't know when we're gonna get to them, could be 5 years, could be 10. Typically, what happens when sewer's coming in, because I did several phases in Rainham and other towns, if sewer's coming in within the next, say, 2 years, and it's funded like this is, if someone has a failure, the bank will allow a letter from the sewer superintendent, town engineer, saying that sewer should be there in the next 2 years, and they don't have to rebuild their system. And they can sit with a failed system and pump it. But that's typically what happens, and it's spearheaded by the bank on the upgrade. When you go to transfer a property, that's what triggers an inspection.
Right.
And so now you got this person wants to transfer the property, they can't put a new system, so they can't sell their house. And the bank triggers that upgrade, and because the financing. But I've had a lot of experience, whereas the bank would take a letter saying, you know, and in this case, anyone in phase 1, that, you know, there's gonna be sewer available within 2 years, and so they put the money, still put the money in escrow for what a system would be. And then once the tie-in is, the money gets released, but that's the mechanism I've seen used in the past.
I wonder, I think Joe, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he was thinking about new systems, new Title V systems, which we acknowledge are not a great idea on Cape Cod, going in while we're working on a particular phase.
I think the Board of Health may take issue with that. Because you're telling the Board of Health what they can and cannot do. And I don't know if you can even do that, because the Board of Health's generally the most powerful board in town. They can change their rules and regs anytime they want with a public hearing. DEP can't even override them.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
if I may, I think it might be a better conversation if we wait until Joe, who put this on the agenda, we're here to be able to give us more information about the dimensions he's considering, whether it's new build, replacement systems, or what he was talking about, and then we could have probably a better consideration.
I think that makes sense.
okay.
Agree?
And Gottlieb was supposed to bring us back some information, but is it really within our jurisdiction?
Yeah,
I think that's something left up to the town planner, the health department, the select board, not us.
you may want to put Glenn Harrington in the loop, if that's, you know, that may be why he was here today.
Okay, let's wait for
Yeah,
Joe,
I think
let's wait
it's
for Gottlieb.
premature to be thinking about all these other departments either. I don't know that Joe had anything. I'm not sure exactly what the dimensions of his idea happened to be, so maybe we should just wait and hear what he says.
Okay, we will wait. Next item, hookup requirements in other towns. This came about because of a discussion. Can't remember the gentleman's name. He claimed that other towns that were sewering were allowing people, when the sewer line was brought in front of their house, were allowing people different times in terms of requirements for connection. And I thought that I saw in our document, the draft sewer plans, I thought it said that we would afford someone 1 year in which to hook up. I was gonna ask somebody, Al, would you look into what other towns are offering, in particular Chatham, Orleans, and Falmouth, and see what they are allowing people?
They're mostly all a year.
They are?
Yeah. That's, when I was drafting the regs, that's what I based it on what the other towns have done. And the reasoning behind it is why you're doing the sewer. You're not doing it, you're doing it to protect the water.
Right.
You're not doing it just to sewer the town. And Falmouth, there was a few people that didn't do it, and Falmouth was getting pretty mad. And I don't know what the result was, but a few people just didn't connect. Most, I think 99% of the people were good, but a lot didn't. But again, that's a policy that would be set by the commission.
Yeah, yeah. Al, if you would, just
I
look
will.
into that. I think it'd be good to write an SOP.
You got it.
Okay, thank you. SOP 1, we just talked about that with Pat, and I think, based on what he was saying, that it's pretty accurate, the way it stands. So I would propose that as we add SOPs, that we add them to our regs when time allows.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Gottlieb may know better, but there are some financing mechanisms for the hookup. And they're also a tax write-off, your cost of your hookup.
Yeah.
Because I'd have people come in after they hooked up, and I'd issue them a letter saying on such and such a date, they were hooked into sewer, so they use it on their tax return.
That's a good thing.
Maybe, I wonder if we shouldn't generate a guidance document for people that describes the possibilities, the opportunities that are out there for them to lower the costs.
That's in the plan, I think. I've read that somewhere myself, and it must have been the wastewater plan.
Okay.
I don't,
Deb, would you mind looking into that?
just seeing where that is written, if it is.
Falmouth has a good website on their sewer, and they have sections on the grinder pumps, kind of YouTube video type things. They have sections on a lot of the public outreach. A lot of that's typically done by, your engineering services during the construction phase, and that's the public outreach. Outreach is usually a line item.
So Deb, if you wouldn't mind looking into a guidance document that would alert people as to the opportunities that are out there to help them with costs associated with hookups.
Okay. Resources available?
Yep.
Resources available to help with cost. Could I just for a second ask the board or Chris, when you were saying about and only because I'm new, so I wasn't going to say anything, but I just had this in my mind. 2 or 3, 3 years maybe down the road, when the betterments start, everyone is going to be charged on their tax bill. It's not a type of a loan that someone would go and put,
No.
Oh, okay.
What they do is you notify them all of the betterment and the amount. The sewer commissioners set the amount. There's different proposals. You could separate the condos, or you could group them both together, and it'd be kind of more fair across the board. Then they have a certain time to, in this case, there's no interest, because typically you put a time, say 90 days to pay it off with no interest.
Yeah.
But in this case, there is no interest, so you probably, why would you pay it off?
Right.
But it gets apportioned over your tax bill. And the thing I didn't point out, which could be an issue in some cases. It's a lien on your property, just like a water bill, sewer bill, anything like that. So when you sell your place, you have to pay that in full. And it's actually a very reasonable betterment because there's a lot of units there. But I know in some towns, I had a friend in Easton, the betterments, they had full price, $50,000 for a condo. So she was bumming because she wanted to sell and she had to disclose, and there's $50,000 off the top. But it's a lien on your property, no different than, you know, when you close, you have to pay any and all liens at closing, and that's one that would have to be paid.
Okay, grinder pump policy. I think everybody had a chance to look that over, and unless there's any commentary, I would propose we adopt it and add it to our regs when the time comes.
Mike, excuse me, so what you want me to look into will be an SOP?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure you must have emailed that grinder pump policy to me.
Yeah.
Okay, I can incorporate it into the regs now, I mean,
Okay.
if you'd like.
Okay, and also the SOP about condos, which Pat confirmed everything that was on there.
Mhm.
That could go in now, too.
Should we
Okay.
just vote on it to make it official?
Yes, that's a good idea. I propose that we take go ahead, Ken, do you have a question?
The only thing I think need to be clarified here is that you're only providing the first pump to them for free. After that,
Yeah.
subsequently, the replacement grinder pumps or whatever is gonna be the homeowner's responsibility. We're not gonna do a eternal, forever grinder pump policy.
What they offer, the
Is that
FR
accurate?
Mahoney, and what they did with Falmouth, and I've talked to them a few times, they'd probably do the same. They came with a 5-year warranty for O&M. After that, the homeowner's on their own.
Okay, that's a good point, Ken. I'll add that to the policy.
Unless we do something within our policy to have a stock of them and sell them to the homeowners at cost. You know, that's another thing you could do. You can have a stock in on your dock in the transfer station, and, you know, you can sell them at cost. But that's, again.
You generally don't replace the grinder pumps for, I mean, we put a force main, I did a, you know, huge 55 and over development in Bridgewater, and ran a force main about a good 5 or 6 miles to where the college is. And a lot of people wet tapped off that, just like you'd wet tap off a pressure main for water. And that was in the 90s, early 90s. So it's at more than 25 years ago.
Well, I just don't want someone to
And
go back to
they're pretty much all still working, and the few that needed to be replaced, they have these E1s set up, so it's a plug and play, where you have the guts that just pulls out and you replace it. And that's generally what goes wrong. The only other thing I had go wrong on them was the control, there's a little control panel that you mount outside, and it was actually one that the town employees in Rainham installed, where the water off the roof would run right down into it, and that broke. But besides that, they're pretty reliable, and the way Falmouth's policy, which is what I've been modeling a lot of stuff off, they provide the grinder pump. They have a warranty. They supplied everyone with a contact name and a number from the company, and that's good for the first 5 years. After that, they're on their own.
Okay, I think we better add that. Good.
Well, you know, if you read this, though, it says the town has opted to provide these pumps for free homeowners who need them in order to hook up the sewer lines. It doesn't say to replace anything. It's just to hook it up, this is it. So we haven't said we were gonna give a free one.
But does the group feel like we should clarify that?
I think the more clarity that we provide for people who obviously have a lot of questions, the better.
Okay,
I understand what you're saying, Art, that's clear to me,
Hmm.
but I think, as
as one woman said here today, it's very new to everybody. They don't even know what betterments are. So the more we can spell out, I think it's a better service to the town.
Okay, I'll make that change. Wastewater treatment plant data. Well, Joe pulled all that together, and he's not here. I think it will be valuable. I think for most planning purposes, though, we still need to use design flows when we're sizing things, don't we,
Oh, yeah.
Chris? Okay. Okay. There's no correspondence to speak of, but I would like to make a motion, or someone to make a motion that we add a item that the chair did not reasonably anticipate.
I so move.
Any second?
Oh, second.
Okay. Everybody agree?
Sure.
Okay. It came up in a select board meeting Monday that not only is it preferable that we be televised, which we are today, but also that we consider moving to evening meetings so that the public can attend. I've been told that it's up to us, and I just wanted to ask the group about what your feelings are, considering we each represent a ward, and one of our jobs is to keep the public informed.
Well, I represent Ward number 1, which a preponderance is Southport, and everybody there is retired. The reason, Mike, that I thought we switched today was because as we get further in the project, we want the contractors to be here to ask questions. I remember we pushed that pretty heavily. And as the project goes, it would be more and more necessary to do that. It is published on TV, so if people want to, they could do that, or each one of us, the people in my district, could ask me to ask a question. I'd be happy to do that and respond back to them.
Other ideas? Deb?
Yeah, I agree with Al. I'm representing the Precinct 4, which is Phase 1 of the project, obviously, the very beginning of it. And as you all know from my interview, I was watching the Sewer Commission meeting, and so it is on television, so if we make sure that people know that even more, maybe a lot of people don't even really realize that, but it could be, I don't know, we could, find some way to inform people that the meetings are at various times, because I think it would be hard to find a time that's great for everybody.
Okay.
And, but I think that the majority of Precinct 4 are working people, that are working, they're not retired, such as Southport. So they would, if they were coming, they would come at night. But I know that a lot of people that I've talked to have said they watch and they write their questions, and then they'll check online for the minutes, and then see when the next meeting is, and if there's something that is important to them, they'll be here at whatever meeting it is, whatever time it is. So, yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if it's, myself, for myself, it doesn't matter, but I think too, you want to think about how you can get the information, disseminate the information to the greater amount of people, and I think we have the media to do that. What better,
Okay.
Just my own personal feeling.
Ken, what are your thoughts?
Doesn't matter to me. I'm going along with it, whatever you want, afternoons or evenings, I'm fine, and if people are interested, as today, they will show up.
Yeah.
Ann?
I'm going to take a different point of view. I think that as a public board, our first obligation is to connecting with and informing the public. And, you know, I think it's all well and good to watch things on television, but if people actually want to participate, being here is more important. And I think daytime is a disservice to working people because they can't come. And even if they don't come and they watch it at home, they can see it in real time at home in the evening, rather than 2 o'clock in the morning when they can't sleep and they can just watch the sewer commission. I think that this is a matter of great public interest. In the past, it hasn't been quite as lively. And I just feel that a courtesy to the audience is what should guide us, not so much to the contractors. We're paying them. They better show up when we need to talk to them. But the public should be, I think, our consideration. So if people think it's better for people to see it and come at night, then I'm fine with that.
Could we alternate, or is that you know, the first, no?
No,
that's too
we
confusing.
got to establish
Yeah.
a time and try and stick to it. We have,
Okay.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna be here either way. So, I mean, I live 6 miles away, so I don't really care. If you meet during the day or during the night, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Doesn't matter to me.
I side with Ann. I think for that very reason that our primary goal needs to make ourselves accessible to the public in real time. But now we have Ken, we're going to have to ask you to make a decision.
Well, if you remember, one of the other reasons we moved it to the afternoon is so Joe would be less cranky.
And he's
I'm
not
with you.
here to defend himself.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Ken?
Yeah, well, no, I'm gonna be here whatever, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me, whatever you wanna do.
I would prefer that we take a vote.
Well, let's take a vote.
Let's take a vote. Who would prefer that we maintain?
No, you have to make a motion.
Go ahead, make a motion, yeah.
I move that the sewer commission, since I'm making the motion, I move that we change the time of meeting to Thursday evening as we used to be.
6 p.m.
6 o'clock.
I second that motion.
What time?
What time?
7 PM was when we
7?
used to have it.
The time we can debate. I'm just moving that I'm making a motion that we move the time of the meeting from daytime to evening.
Okay, second.
Let's put it that way.
Vote,
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we vote. Now we have to vote. Don't we?
I think we just did, didn't we?
Yeah.
What did you just say?
You just voted.
I
We
moved
just
that
voted.
we change the time of the sewer commission meeting from daytime to evening.
Mike, if I could, just for my own selfish reasons, 6 o'clock would work better for me, just because, you know, I drive home, I sit there for a half hour, 45 minutes and drive back, you know,
Yeah.
and I'd
Okay.
rather just stay.
Yeah.
But again, it's up to whatever's easier for the commission. The ZBA and the rest typically meet, I think, at 6.
Okay. I'm confused. I thought that we were making a motion to actually take a vote.
We do.
We took, okay, if that's the case, then you need to take a vote.
Right.
Yes.
I vote that we move to 6 o'clock in the evening rather than meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon
And what day of the week?
on Thursday. Same schedule. What is your preference, Ann?
That's fine with me. I mean, the selectmen are Monday and the planning board is Wednesday, and, you know, I think that works fine for me. So,
Okay.
but we're voting, so I vote yes.
Yes.
I vote no.
Yes.
Okay. Al, I hope you're okay with this.
Yeah, it's just, I have a lot of things going in the evenings, and this worked out ideal for me. I couldn't ask for a better time, but, you know, it is what it is.
Okay. All right. I guess the meeting minutes should read that we are switching to evening meetings, 6 o'clock on every other Thursday, starting with our meeting on October 21st.
I ask, I hate to be a pain in the ass. I'm on a planning board, still in Rainham, and I meet first and third Thursday at 6 o'clock. So no second and fourth might be better. Either way, it doesn't matter, I can quit the planning board,
Okay.
just a thought.
So what dates would you prefer, Chris?
Second and fourth Thursday.
Second and fourth. Is that a problem for people? For other people? Second and fourth rather than first and third?
Which means that the next meeting will be October 28th at 6 PM.
Yes. October 28th at 6 PM. Is that agreeable to folks? Okay.
I appreciate that.
All right. Any other topics that people want to discuss? I propose then, I make a motion then that we,
You can't make motions, can you?
oh, I'm sorry.
I think,
I make a motion for
Ask for a
adjournment.
motion.
I ask for a motion
I
to
make a motion to
adjourn.
Second.
All right.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deb, before